In the service outline, I knew we were going to sing O Say Shalom after inviting everybody to read that reading. But it's hard to imagine what it feels like to hear such a song about hopes for peace after reading something like this. It reminds us why our ancestors chose to put O Say Shalom at the end of the mourner's Kaddish. It's heartbreaking to read something like what we just read. And once again, before we get into it, I want to remind those watching at home, this might not be the right sermon or discussion for young children. The topics are graphic and difficult to hear. Who has studied Babi Yar before? So it's not something that a lot of people know about. And there's a reason for that, and it's the reason why we're talking about it tonight. On yesterday, on the 6th, there was a dedication at Babi Yar sponsored by the Ukrainian government for the massacre that occurred there. And for all this time, it was 80 years ago that Babi Yar occurred, there hadn't been a monument. The President Zelensky of Ukraine was there. The President of Israel, Herzog, was there. The German president was there as well. They all spoke at this commemoration. It is the site of a massacre of 33,000 Jews. September 29th and 30th, 1941. And Secretary of State Tony Blinken, who was there, summarized why so few people have studied Babi Yar. He said, for much of the last 8 decades, the world did not remember what happened there. This was by design. The Nazis were not alone in trying to bury what had happened. For decades, Soviet history omitted the 33,771 victims of those first 2 days, and tens of thousands more executed later, and they were killed because they were Jews. To give a little context of what led up to Babi Yar, starting in 1933, the Nazis implemented something called Judenrein, and that is the cleansing of the Jews. And they did this at first by trying to make life so difficult in their territories that Jews would be forced to leave the country. And by 1938, over 150,000 German Jews, 1 out of every 4 Jews in Germany, had fled the country. Then Germany annexed Austria in March of 1938, and that brought additional almost 200,000 Jews under Nazi rule. And all of a sudden, Jews were unable to find countries willing to take them in. A couple years back on this bima, I spoke about the Avian Conference. And just to give a little refresher on the Avian Conference, in July of 1938, delegates from 32 countries gathered together with representatives from relief organizations trying to address the problem of Jewish refugees from German territories. Everybody was there to encourage a long-term solution to this problem of where can Jews go. And after a week of this conference, it ended with no resolution. Of the 32 countries that were there, only one was willing to take in Jews. And it was the tiny country of the Dominican Republic, nobody else. It is said, and Walter Mondale said this, at stake at Avian were both human lives and the decency and self-respect of the civilized world. If each nation at the Avian Conference had agreed to take on 17,000 Jews, every Jew in the Reich could have been saved. If every country took 17,000 Jews. It's heartbreaking to think of the desperate human beings waiting in suspense for what happens at Avian, but the question they underline is not simply humanitarian, it is a test of civilization. Shortly after the Avian Conference came and went without resolution, there was a bill proposed in Congress It was called the Wagner-Rogers Bill. It was a bipartisan bill from Robert Wagner of New York and Edith Rogers of Massachusetts. The bill called for the United States to welcome in 20,000 children under the age of 14 over a 2-year period. Didn't pass. The United States Congress refused 20,000 children under the age of 14. In May of 1939, we take the story over to the British mandate in Palestine. Jews sought refuge there from Nazi Germany to the point where the Arab population became fearful that they would overtake them. There was Arab unrest, there was violence towards Jews, and the British government started to become, I guess you would say, they were tired of the unrest. They were tired of the struggles, and they put a halt on all Jewish immigration to the land of Palestine in 1939. After all that, the Avian Conference, the congressional decision, the ceasing of refugees into Palestine, this leads us into the early 1940s, where in Kiev, an announcement was made, September 1941. All Yids of the city of Kiev and its vicinity must appear on Monday, the 29th of September by 8 o'clock in the morning at the corner of Melnikova and Doktorskaya streets. Bring documents, money, and valuables, also warm clothing, linen, etc. Any Yids who do not follow this order and are found elsewhere will be shot. Any civilians who enter the dwellings left by Yids and appropriate the things of them will be shot as well. As you all just read in the testimony of Dina Pronicheva, this is one of the most famous testimonies from this event because there were so few survivors. They didn't know what they were in for at this time. In fact, the commander of all of this from the Eitzens group, and the commander of all this was quoted just 2 days later saying, "The difficulties resulting from such a large-scale action, in particular concerning the seizure, were overcome in Kiev by requesting the Jewish population through wall posters to move. Although a participation of approximately 5,000 to 6,000 had been expected at first, more than 30,000 Jews arrived who, until the very moment of their execution, still believed in their resettlement, thanks to an extremely clever organization." According to testimonies of people who were present and who witnessed, they arrived not knowing exactly what was going to happen. They were taken, all their valuables, their clothing were taken. The crowd was so large that most of the victims didn't know what was happening until it was too late. By the time they heard machine gun fire, there was no chance to escape. In the blink of an eye, 33,000 Jews were executed. And what was the international response? Nothing. There was no condemnation, there was no reaction, there was no wild-scale reporting, and Hitler continued to believe that he could act with impunity, leading ultimately to the final solution. It's hard to imagine this world where all of this happened. But think of where we are today. Does it sound so crazy that our Congress would refuse 20,000 refugees today? Does it sound crazy that our Congress would vote against, say, a missile defense system that protects the lives of Jews? All of these things have happened recently. I've said it time and again. Israel doesn't exist because of the Holocaust, but the Holocaust happened because Israel didn't exist. Golda Meir was at that conference at Evian. She was the representative of the Jews of the British Mandate of Palestine. She wasn't allowed to speak. She wasn't even allowed to sit among the other speakers. But she left that conference saying, there's only one thing I hope to see before I die, and that is that my people should not need expressions of sympathy anymore. On this, the 80th anniversary of Babi Yar, I'd like to think that in a lot of ways, Golda's hope has become a reality. We are not the shaking knees, humble Jews in the world anymore. We've taken our place in this world, and our state of Israel is indeed strong. And God forbid the world comes after us again, we have a safe place to be. But there are people today who deny that the Holocaust ever happened. There are people today who exaggerate it. There are people who want to minimize it because they think it gives Jews, the right to feel like we can exist. And after 80 years, this memorial in the Ukraine finally exists. I encourage y'all to watch the dedication of this, the speeches by the rabbis, the presidents of Israel, Germany, and Ukraine, because this is a reminder to us of anti-Semitism in this world, how quickly it rises, and how quickly and easily it can be brushed aside. It's a reminder to us that even when we are living in times of peace and joy, there are people who aren't. If you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., or the one at Yad Vashem in Israel, you'll learn that there are genocides happening in this world as we speak. We have a responsibility as Jewish people to remember. I've read this sermon, I've read what I handed out to you, I've read the poem by Yevgeny Yevtushenko time and again, and every word breaks my heart. And to speak about it from this pulpit is a painful and sacred responsibility, because we have to remember, especially as the world tries to get us to forget. I'm going to conclude with this poem from Babi Yar, from Yevgeny Yevtushenko, written by a non-Jew, by a Russian. It's one of the most famous writings about this from the Russian standpoint. And I want you to remember the Oseh Shalom that we all sang right before this started. Because Oseh Shalom is a prayer with a purpose. When we come to the end of the Mourner's Kaddish, we say those words. We transition from the Aramaic of Mourner's Kaddish into the Hebrew of Oseh Shalom. Because we're meant to remember these things and to honor these things. But Oseh Shalom lifts us back up. And maybe we can do Oseh Shalom again after the reading of this poem to remind us. We've been taken by these writers into the dark place of their experience. But we have plenty to be thankful for and uplifted by in this gathering today. So I'll share these words that I think resonate with us as Jews and to those who are not Jews, how we should all approach this issue of anti-Semitism. This was written, by the way, in 1961 as part of a protest as to why there is no memorial to Babi Yar. It begins. No monument stand over Babi Yar, a sudden drop sheer as a gross grave. I am afraid. Today I am as old in years as all the Jewish people. Now I seem to be a Jew. Here I plod through ancient Egypt, here I perish crucified on the cross, and to this day I bear the scars of nails. I seem to be Dreyfus, the Philistine, his bold informer and judge. I am behind bars, beset on every side, hounded, spat on, slandered. Squealing, dainty ladies in flounced Brussels lace stick their parasols in my face. I seem to be then a young boy in Bialystok. Blood runs spilling over the floors. The barroom rabble-rousers give off a stench of vodka and onion. A boot kicks me aside helpless. In vain I plead with these pogrom bullies while they jeer and shout, "Beat the Yids, save Russia." Some grain marketer beats up my mother. "Oh, my Russian people, I know you. You are international to the core, but those with unclean hands have made a jingle of your purest names. I know the goodness of my land, how vile these anti-Semites without a qualm. They pompously call themselves the Union of Russian People. I seem to be Anne Frank, transparent as a branch in April, and I love. And have no need of phrases. My need is that we gaze into each other, how little we can see or smell. We are denied the leaves, we are denied the sky, yet we can do so much, tenderly embrace each other in a darkened room. They're coming here? Be not afraid, those are the booming sounds of spring. Spring is coming here. Come then to me, quick. Give me your lips. Are they smashing down the door? No, it's the ice breaking. The wild grasses rustle over Babi Yar. The trees look ominous like judges. Here all things scream silently, and bearing my head, slowly I feel myself turning gray. And I myself am one massive soundless scream above the thousand buried here. I am each old man here shot dead. I am every child here shot dead. Nothing in me shall ever forget the Internationale. Let it thunder when the last anti-Semite on earth is buried forever. In my blood there is no Jewish blood. In their callous rage, all anti-Semites must hate me now as a Jew. For that reason, I am a true Russian. It's my honor to invite up Derek Kaplan for announcements. Y'all, that's as heavy as a sermon as I give. And if anybody wants to come talk after services or sometime this week, I'm here. I've had all week to read these sources and